Hello and welcome to the Transfer News Central podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Bentley, once again, and I'm joined by Dec and James. Hello.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah. You don't have to lie, it's me. So there's lots to discuss in England and abroad in terms of transfer action and speculation. So without further ado, let's get into it. You've heard that before. You've been listening to my auto cue videos for this YouTube channel. Anyway, so yesterday, of course, we were sort of brought back to the Paul Pogba saga with his agent, lovely agent Mino Raiola, who definitely doesn't like stirring up things or causing trouble, suggesting that his client Pogba would prefer to move away from Manchester this summer. Well, it's not exactly breaking news because he sort of hinted this a few weeks ago anyway, and then the speculation died down. There wasn't much said, so Raiola thought this is perfect opportunity to jump in and stir the pot even more, which he has.
What a guy.
I know, we love him and these super agents. They make football such a wonderful sport and place to be. But what do we think then about this? Because this is United's best outfield player. You can't hold a player to ransom because it never works out well. And I know we discussed this a bit before, but now this is going to be more of a central topic. You know, why can United not demand £140 million for someone who is clearly one of the best midfielders in the world on his day?
I fully think they can, and I think they're in the right. He's got 3 years left on his deal. At the end of the day, it's a shame, because I thought he would be this sort of figure point for United, especially under Solskjaer. They could sort of move forward and he's your world-class player and everyone knows it. You only have to look at the stats from last season to see that, and what he does for United even when they don't have a great season. Their season would have been a hell of a lot worse without him. And I just think that they can demand this kind of money from a club like Real Madrid or Juventus, wherever he's going to end up. It just doesn't help when you have agents like Mino Raiola. You don't even know, until Pogba says something, you've got no idea. He's using his representatives to say what he feels he wants or what is important to him. I get his need to want to play for the best clubs, and I feel like everyone want to play for Real Madrid, because that's like always this pipeline dream in football. But it's just a shame when that relationship between a club and a player has to end so depressingly.
Unceremoniously.
Yeah, it never looks great, and it can't help the dressing room of the players all coming back for pre-season, and now we've got this going on. I think United's biggest issue is not going to be the effect if Paul Pogba leaves. It's going to be, we've mentioned it before, and I've mentioned it before, that they struggle to replace players. They still haven't replaced Ronaldo, and they've tried several times.
I mean, to be fair, it would be quite difficult to replace one of the best two players in the world.
Yeah, and I fully get it, but Paul Pogba leaving now, because he's not going to go tomorrow. I'd be very shocked if he did. This is going to drag on, and then they're going to have a week to buy someone that's going to be close to his quality. And by that point, you're going to see players already gone. A shock that I haven't seen United linked with more is Yuri Tielemans from Monaco, who was on loan at Leicester last season. It seems that he's going to complete a deal to Leicester now, and that's 40 million. And I can guarantee you, if he plays well for Leicester, United will go back in for him 2 seasons from now and pay 100 million for him, because that just seems to be their sort of thinking in transfer strategy. He's a good replacement there for the future for Pogba, and they're not even sniffing.
Yeah, well, just to bring you in, James, actually, with this. So they used to have, I was reading actually, this transfer policy in certain years for United recently was the Galacticos strategy. They got Zlatan, got Pogba, they got Mkhitaryan, who was one of Bundesliga's best players, and they were sort of going for these big marketable names and look at us, we're like the Harlem Globetrotters, Real Madrid kind of look at us kind of team. So was selling...
Are you okay there, Charlie?
Yes, yeah, I am, I'm fine. It was just overpowered by all the star names I was.
Wow.
But what I was just going to say is, if they sold Pogba and then replaced him maybe with a lesson, they seem to be going for the smaller names now. They're not quite as big marketable names. Would that be sort of a sign of a changing of the ways, or trying to get rid of the ego that manifests in this United dressing room and trying to sort of rip the scrapbook up and start again?
Absolutely. As an outsider, not a Manchester United fan, I mean, he's a great player on his day, been one of their best players when he's played well. Since he's come back, he's a disruptive influence. He causes more problems than he solves, as far as I'm concerned. And it's so important, a top team, to have good team spirit, to have people working together, not have one ego dominating everything, to not have one rule for one person, one rule for another person. I've seen Manchester United linked with Bruno Fernandes, which would be an excellent signing, and a proper replacement. And actually, he's not a better player, but he's a younger player, and he's
got less of the baggage.
Yeah, he's got less of the baggage, and he's more of a team player. He wouldn't have as big wages. You wouldn't have this circus around him all the time because he's not a Galactico, but he's a very good player. And I actually heard today that Real Madrid might be wanting to offer Isco and 75 million or something for Pogba. And to be honest, if I'm Man United and I get offered that, I'm taking it because
Although Isco's got a bit of an ego about him as well, hasn't he? I suppose a lot of the top players do.
but not in anything like Paul Pogba. I mean, he's not got the media circus around him. He's not got Raiola. Raiola is the biggest problem here. Honestly,
Yeah.
he's an absolute cancer in football. And I don't like using that word because it's a bit. He's such a bad influence in football. I mean, Pep Guardiola won't buy any players that are his clients because of who he is. Chelsea don't want to work with him as well. I know that. Chelsea just don't deal with it. And if a player's represented by Raiola, he will not be going to Chelsea. I can tell you that. And because he's only interested in himself. And I remember a comment by Romelu Lukaku ditched him as his agent. And we don't know how true this is, but he said that when he left Everton, he told Raiola he wanted to go to Chelsea. Chelsea indicated they wanted to buy him. Raiola said, I'm going to go to Mourinho and talk to her, Marina Granovskaya, and talk to her about this and stuff and try and get it done. He came back to Lukaku and said, I couldn't get hold of Mourinho. She didn't want to meet me. We can't get that deal done, so I'm going to send you to Man United. And it turns out he never even met her. He was pushing him to Manchester United all along.
Wasn't Mourinho United manager at the time, though?
Yes, he was. Yes. Mourinho is United. I mean, Conte has wanted to work with him since he was at Juventus. He wanted him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what you meant.
Conte wanted him at Juventus. He wanted him at Chelsea.
He wants him at Inter.
He wants him at Inter, and I think there's a mutual kind of desire to work together. But it's Raiola is the problem, and he's the one that's driving this more than Pogba, even I think.
Yeah. Well, just to throw that back at your deck, obviously we got Pogba as this big problem, this big sort of virus. I think somehow had him described as in the United dressing room. But it's not just Paul Pogba, is it? He gets highlighted quite a lot. A lot of these things I feel like maybe a bit blown over the top. When you look at some of the other players. I mean, Jesse Lingard likes to enjoy himself, doesn't he, off the field with certain antics on Snapchat or Instagram, very social media heavy. I think he did. I think there was that. I remember that story broke when United lost quite a big game in the league, and then he was promoting his clothing brand. Obviously, it was probably a scheduled tweet or whatever, a scheduled post, and he came in for a bit of criticism there. I'm not saying that was necessarily his fault. It's not just Paul Pogba, is it? I mean, it is a collective kind of, attitude that maybe isn't quite right at the club. There's not too many people who are going to grab people by the scruff of the neck. Actually, before I bring you in, maybe when Ibrahimovic was there, he was that kind of player who sort of said, you know what, Jose is the manager, let's get behind, let's play for the shirt. Like, you never got the sense of any mutiny when Ibrahimovic was here.
No.
Because he was almost like Jose Mourinho's second-hand man. He was almost like a leader, a warrior who was willing to fight for the club.
But he definitely got to that age now where if you look at him when he was at Barcelona, he was that sort of player like Pogba is now. Do you know what I mean? That's come with experience and he's been through it all and he's always been a world-class player. It was amazing for United, the brief time that they had him. Do you know what I mean? Let's not forget that
loved him.
He'd never been in the Prem and he was fully performing even though he was towards the end of his career. And it's a real shame that he couldn't stay longer because United could do with him big time. They could do with a goal scorer like him.
And just his presence.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think people are a bit harsh on players like Jesse Lingard and stuff because they do get targeted because they're English. And I fully agree with Pogba, but when you choose to have an agent like Mino Raiola, you're sort of asking for it because we're seeing now that what's happening with Matthijs de Ligt is that this has gone on for far too long. Before it was like, oh, it's been delayed because he's been on holiday. Oh, now it's been delayed because they can't agree a fee. And this is like the fourth or fifth club this window. And you know that Matthijs de Ligt is probably not bothered or seems a pretty nice guy. And you know this is just Mino Raiola looking where he can get the biggest agent bonus. He can get the biggest bag of money, and that's just what it seems like. It seems like football is not important. And I feel like De Ligt wants to go to Juventus because he wants to play for a top team, wants to win the league, wants to win the Champions League, especially play with a player like Cristiano Ronaldo. And we even see it with Barca wanting to play with Frankie de Jong and wanting to play with Lionel Messi. But it just seems like we can be a little bit harsh to players sometimes. And sometimes it's not that we blame them because they're the face, but there's always a darker person behind them. And that's what all these issues seem to be. It always just goes back to the agent.
Yes.
I completely, agree with what you both sort of alluded to there, but just on the footballing front now, with regards to Pogba and his potential move, where would he go? Because I'm looking at Real Madrid, who's quite cash-strapped, and Christian Eriksen probably represents a cheaper alternative if they want a midfielder. You look at Barcelona, and they've just brought Griezmann in. It looks like they're trying to find a way to get Neymar back, which might involve Coutinho going to PSG. We might come into that in a little bit on the show. So that rules out potentially two Spanish clubs. I'm not saying he wouldn't go to Real Madrid. Zidane's a big fan, but, financially could be difficult. Where do you guys see him potentially going?
Well, I feel like it either has to be Real Madrid or Juventus.
Yes, I absolutely 100% agree, yeah.
I don't think either club can afford him, but that's the only way I can see a deal going through is between one of those two clubs.
What about PSG?
Maybe I imagine they have the money for it, but would he want to go to PSG? I guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Juventus or Real Madrid. I think they're the two clubs that he would want to go to. I know Real Madrid have spent a lot of money. I still think they could find a way to do it. I think, and they've got enough players that they could probably give Man United, like we said, Isco or some other player as part exchange.
Borrow some money off the Spanish government or something.
They could do a deal with Adidas get involved.
Yeah. There's always loopholes, isn't there, around these things? There is.
Yeah, they're different from other clubs.
But I think the reason I see him going to Real Madrid or Juventus a bit more and not PSG is because it feels like he's not just desperate to leave Manchester United. It's because he wants to play with Zidane. It's because, do you know what I mean? That's why it feels like it's always been this Madrid pipeline. And it's only because he's been at Juventus and he loves Juventus and they're in a very good place right now in terms of their squad that seems appealing. It doesn't seem like he's wanted to jump ship. Otherwise, I don't know why he would have signed this massive deal that would have committed to United for so long. So there's no pressure for United. Even if it was 2 years left, there'd be a lot more pressure. But he has 3 years left on his deal. I know United probably won't want to keep him around if he doesn't want to be there because that is the sort of thing that Solskjaer has been instilling in the team since he's joined. But I don't know. It's really baffling. I really thought he was going to stay. I'd fully sort of convinced myself that even what he said in China, it didn't seem real. But Raiola just causing more trouble. It just feels like United have got no choice.
Yeah.
Juventus have a plethora of midfielders as well, don't they? Ramsey, I think they've done a deal for Rabiot.
Blaise Matuidi, Sami Khedira.
Exactly. So it seems like, I don't know, style over substance, bringing in another player. I think I'll do, to be fair. Don't work hard enough, though, so we'll stick with what we have.
I think we'll probably see him in a white shirt by the end of the summer. And remember that Spanish clubs can buy players.
They can, after the English window.
After our transfer window's gone. So if Man United are smart, they will get a player in before the transfer window.
But are Man United smart, though, James?
No, they're not.
Okay, right. Well, there we go.
They're the worst team in the top six
Ooh.
in terms of transfer policy. I mean, honestly, even Chelsea are better than them. Chelsea can't buy anyone.
Chelsea finished third. I'm not worried about Chelsea.
Oh, you know what? It's brilliant. I don't even have to make a segue. You've already brought Chelsea into the discussion because there's been. I mean, it's a shock to everyone this week that Frank Lampard just came out of the blue and was appointed.
Where did that come from?
I know, yeah. This was revealed exclusively, I think, on our very first podcast. So you listen to that and you treat whatever we say from now on as gospel. So
yes.
Yeah. So obviously, we talked
TNC
exclusive. We talked a lot about this in our first podcast, of course, so we'll talk quite a bit now, maybe not quite to the extent, but James, obviously, you're the Chelsea fan here. You have these links and insights that you can give us into the club and hopefully into Lampard. We were sort of dissecting in that first podcast how we feel he might play. He'll be quite flexible, probably tactically, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, etc. So just give us a summary of what you see Chelsea achieving in Lampard's first season.
I think we're going to surprise some people.
Are you going to win the league?
No. No, we're not going to win the league. But I can see us winning something. That press conference that he did win the Super Cup. That press conference was hugely impressive. He was so...
As we'd expect, I think. He's a very,
didn't articulate. Yeah, he spoke a lot of sense. He didn't expect any favours.
Yeah.
Ambitious. I mean, if Chelsea fans Lampard was at Chelsea 13 years. We kind of know a bit about him as a person. Yeah, he's a
Man City legend, isn't he?
Yeah, Man City legend. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but he's a leader. He's a winner. He works very, very hard at everything. He was the guy that was always out first in training and finished last. All the time. And he expects hard work from everybody else. And the thing that's really impressed me as well was that he said, not coming here with any preconceived agendas about players. He's bringing everyone back in who was kind of on the outside, the Lone Army Academy.
Danny Drinkwater,
yeah, he wants to see all of them, and if he sees they've got the right attitude, if they're working hard.
Kurt Zuma actually could be interesting.
Yeah, I think Kurt Zuma's going to become a key player this year. But so if you've got the right attitude, you work hard, and obviously you've got to have the ability as well, then he'll give you an opportunity. And he wants to use players, he wants to use the players maybe who've been ignored, because he's not just going to do what Sarri did and say, right, you don't fit with my philosophy, therefore you're out, and I'm not even going to talk to you about it. He's going to give people a chance to prove themselves, and we've got 7 pre-season friendlies, so there's plenty of chance for everyone to prove themselves. And again, like you say, he's tactically flexible. He'll adapt to what he has. He'll adapt to the opposition.
As opposed to the other way around. Sarri was more, you adapt to me or you're gone, and Lampard's more, well, Lampard doesn't really have a choice, I guess, because he has a transfer ban and this is what he has.
And what was great this week as well is kind of, just as it was coming out, Lampard was appointed, you had the news that Loftus-Cheek's going to sign a 5-year contract, Hudson-Odoi's going to sign a 5-year contract, Mason Mount's going to sign a long-term contract, and they're looking at getting Reece James, who I've talked about before, and I think we'll be talking about a lot this season. They're going to get him on a long-term deal. All these players now want to commit because of him. The academy players now, like there's one academy player called Castillo. He's a very promising he's a left full-back or left winger. He was going to leave. He was out of contract, changed his mind, and decided to stay because of Lampard, because he's worked with Joe.
It'll be such a shame when he gets sacked within 4 months and they bring
I thought that was so sad that when people
they bring Big Sam in.
Oh man, Big Sam.
Saves them from relegation.
And he signs Andy Carroll on a 4-year deal.
If I was a Chelsea fan, I would be so excited actually for the new season, just because of how everything's sort of falling into place with the transfer ban, with Frank Lampard coming in, like a former legend, your top goal scorer, like someone.
How it's all falling into the place with the transfer ban.
He's the best person to be in charge.
I agree.
If I was a Chelsea fan, I would be so excited.
I've not seen the Chelsea fan base this optimistic, positive, united
since last season,
ahead of a new season for a long time. This is the most excited I've been about a season since 2004.
What about when Mourinho came back?
Yeah, that was close. But it's strange because we've got a transfer ban, but you wouldn't think that because the mood of the fans is so optimistic. It's so positive, and the fans want the academy players to get a chance. They're not going to. Chelsea fans are quite loyal to people who they trust. So the reason they booed Maurizio Sarri wasn't because of the results. It was because they didn't feel like he connected with the fan base or made any effort to. He didn't.
It's because they were horrible, horrible people.
And they didn't like him and they didn't respect him. Whereas Lampard, I think that we could get relegated with Lampard and it wouldn't make any difference. They would still cheer for him. Oh no, I'm telling you,
Legend.
Obviously they wouldn't, but obviously they'd be upset at the results. Obviously, but
to be fair, Jay, this is a slight segue because I love the man, but I'm not really sure. I know he was brilliant in his first season, but how was the relationship? This is only in 20 seconds. Were the Chelsea fans ever turning on Antonio Conte the way they did on Maurizio Sarri? Because I thought he was a don.
Not in the same way.
Not quite the same, was it? He really did connect with the fans, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, especially in his first season, and there was a lot of empathy with him in that, he wasn't backed. In the way he wanted Lukaku and Sanchez and Sandro and all these players and didn't get them. But the frustration that Chelsea fans had with Antonio Conte was that he kind of downed tools in February.
Yeah, I recognise that. I'm just happy that they didn't turn on him completely because he was just. Who doesn't love a manager that runs into the fans
yeah, exactly.
and hugs them?
And I think people still respect him more than they respect Maurizio Sarri.
I like them both, James. I like them both. Apples and oranges.
Yeah, I was really upset with Conte for a long time, but I've kind of forgiven him a bit now because of
95 points in his first season.
Is it 95 points?
Yeah.
Crikey. Yeah, he did.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that first season was great. That was a great season.
While we're talking about Chelsea, a bit of breaking news. Alvaro Morata has been confirmed. May be made permanent at Atletico Madrid.
That was inevitable, wasn't it?
That's great for Chelsea. You got to give credit to Marina Granovskaya. She's got 130 million for Hazard. She's got 10 million for Maurizio Sarri, and now she's got all our money back on Alvaro Morata because they paid about 8 million in a loan fee, and now they're paying 50 million in the transfer fee. So, he was to be honest, he was a complete flop. But we've got all our money back for him. Chelsea have made 150 million in transfer.
Inevitable sale as well, wasn't it? Inevitable sale, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
150 million that they can't spend.
Well, I can spend it next summer.
It was 93 points as well. I just double-checked. 93, not quite the 95, but still very impressive, actually, considering, considering how that season started.
90, 95 is
Yeah,
what
93 in Conte's first, but still, fair play, Don Conte. Anyway, that's just my loving with Antonio, and obviously we've just the Morata thing. I don't think it needs to. I think I watched him for Atletico actually, and we'll come back to Lampard in a second. This is just a little diversion, but I watched Morata play 1 or 2 games for Atletico. I thought he looked a different player, looked a lot more confident, looked like he wanted to be there a lot more. I think he's actually genuinely not a bad player. I remember when he first came to Chelsea, his movement was excellent. I always thought his movement in and around the box was brilliant. One of the best movers in the league. He used to get into brilliant positions. Defenders couldn't live with him. And towards the start of his Chelsea career, I thought he was chipping in with quite a few goals and assist contributions. But then it's sort of, I think it's whatever happened, his confidence just sort of died down. And he couldn't hit a barn door then, could he? After his initially good start.
No, he was a confidence player, and once his confidence went, that was it. And it kind of went downhill from there. And then he stopped. But it wasn't just that. It was then he stopped trying, and he was kind of moaning about leaving, and he was kind of blaming things on everybody else, and it was just really
sour.
Yeah, I mean, if he continued like he did in the first 6 months,
he'd
probably still be there. But it just didn't work out. And
the signs aren't good. It does look like he's. I mean, Costa's actually the one, ironically, that's not doing quite as well at Atletico at the moment, isn't he? So, and everyone's going, oh, no. I mean, he did deal with it quite badly with the text, but still, Costa was like a ticking time bomb, wasn't he, at the best of times? So, I mean, you could never. He wanted to go to China, didn't he, in that season before, in the January?
Yes, he did. And there was literally a coincidence because, well, it wasn't a coincidence. It was like he was playing really well, right? Scoring loads of goals, in really good form. The link to China came, and from the next game onwards, he started playing appallingly. And he played appallingly for most of the rest of the season. And it was, because his head had been turned, he didn't want to be there anymore. And then he goes on strike and parties in an Atletico Madrid shirt while he's still registered to Chelsea.
And people said that was Antonio Conte's fault. I know he could have dealt with it a little bit better with the text, but there was a lot more to it than simply, And then when he left and he had the audacity to say, oh, I would have, happily played on at Chelsea. Come on. As you just alluded to. Anyway, we're going on to diversions. Back to the task at hand. I know the Morata thing was breaking news on TNC, as we like to do. But back to
we're so famed for.
I know, yeah. But back to Lampard. I'll bring you in now, Dec. I would say that just as sort of to play devil's advocate. So this is what maybe you've been very positive so far. So this is a Chelsea team without Eden Hazard, which is obviously the best player. It meant that whenever I think he put his best numbers in terms of goals and assists. I think that last season was his best in a Chelsea shirt for Maurizio Sarri. So whenever the tactics or the team weren't quite at it, or they would, the system didn't quite deliver the goods in terms of chances and opportunities for goals, Eden Hazard would come and probably bail them out on many occasions, which obviously contributed to their third finish in the league and the trophy that they won in the Europa League.
Yes.
So there'll be no Eden Hazard now, so that means that Lampard, even though he'll probably be more tactically flexible than Sarri was, he won't have that get out of jail free card of Hazard, which will be a shame.
No, but
one more thing just before you both come in. This is a very inexperienced manager, unlike Sarri. He's had 1 year at this, and this was with a Derby squad that probably doesn't have the egos and sort of previous toxicity, I guess, that the Chelsea dressing room has. This dressing room has been difficult for Sarri, Antonio Conte, and Jose Mourinho beforehand. So there are certain, whether that's down to ego, whether that's down to the fact that they know that the chairman's probably is so trigger happy that they can dictate the manager's future with a click of a finger. So looking at it from the other side, the no Hazard thing, is that going to have as big an effect as everyone imagines? It probably will do. And is the ego in the dressing room going to be a difficult one for Lampard to take on in only his second year of his managerial career?
I honestly don't think so that much. Obviously, we didn't see it as an issue at Derby, but like you said, because they're probably players with not as big as egos as what he'll probably encounter as Chelsea manager. But it does sort of have that clean slate feel with Frank Lampard coming in charge at Chelsea, with the transfer ban, with a lot of really positive youth players at the moment. It does feel like we won't see that same toxicity. And maybe it is just built into Chelsea at the moment and it will come back and it will derail everything. But it doesn't, I'm not getting that feeling from the club and from how fans feel and how they're just sort of running themselves quite well at the moment, considering they do have a transfer ban and they have just lost their best player in Eden Hazard, who for me, as well as a season without Van Dijk having such an incredible season, I'd probably put him as player of the year for last year for me, just ahead of Raheem Sterling.
Bernardo Silva as well. Very good.
Exactly. A proper, like we see in America, an MVP, where he was Chelsea's most valuable player. Without him, they came nowhere near Champions League place. They came nowhere near winning the Europa League. It was all through Eden Hazard. So replacing him is going to be difficult, but I don't see it as a massive negative.
No.
Just because they do have so many good players still, either coming back from loan or already at the club.
Yeah.
That might be given a bigger chance now under Lampard.
And you've got, I think, Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to have a breakout year this year. On the left-hand side, we saw him on the right-hand side last year. Chelsea fans who've watched him through the academy know his best position is on the left. He is incredible on the left. He's a totally different player to Eden Hazard because he's a much more traditional winger than Hazard is, but he will get goals and assists this year. I'm absolutely sure of that. So will Christian Pulisic.
Exactly.
I think Willian will do better when Hazard's not.
Well, Willian plays better on the left, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he plays better when Hazard isn't there as well. I think he feels like he can come out of his shell a bit. He's not, because when Hazard is playing, there's a tendency to just give it to Hazard because he can do something.
It's usually a good policy, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it is, but it means that other players kind of withdraw into themselves a little bit.
I have to say, sorry, James, as a neutral, I would love to see a front three next season of Hudson-Odoi on the left, Christian Pulisic on the right, and Tammy Abraham down the middle. What do you think of that?
I think you may well see that.
See, I think Olivier Giroud might be better set up to be the main striker this season. But again, that's what opinions are for.
Batshuayi is in pre-season as well. I think he may be.
Is he?
I think Chelsea may keep all three because Lampard has played with two strikers up front before. So and Michy Batshuayi has a good chemistry with Christian Pulisic.
Yeah, that's true.
From when he was at Dortmund, and his way of playing fits with the way Lampard wants to play. He's a poacher. He gets in the area, scores goals. That's what Lampard likes to have in strikers. And Tammy Abraham's the same. And I'm torn between them. I think Tammy Abraham probably edges it because he's a Chelsea academy player, because he's never really got a chance, because he gets the club. He's got that extra connection to the club, I think, and really wants to succeed. But I'm just excited to see these players that haven't really had a chance to prove themselves, who are not bad players, to actually get an opportunity, and to see people like. It won't be just Hudson-Odoi this year. You'll see
Ross Barkley.
Yeah, Ross Barkley, I think, will do better under Lampard, who's his idol, by the way.
Of course he is.
Mason Mount will get a chance to play in the first team regularly. Lampard loves him, especially with Loftus-Cheek injured. This will be Mason Mount's opportunity. Reece James will.
Who's that, James? Who's Reece James?
Yeah, I've never heard of Reece James before, James.
I'm going to go on about him. If you ask Chelsea fans who've seen him, and they'll tell you, most Chelsea fans know who this kid is. He won Youth Player of the Year last year, not Hudson-Odoi. Tony Morris said, I could play him anywhere on the pitch and he would do a job.
Although, to be fair, Azpilicueta's also, I know he didn't have his best season last year, but still a very, able option at right back.
Yeah.
Very good defensively at least. Maybe not quite as good going forward, but even then he still contributes with a few goals and assists. So at least there is that element of maybe the rotation that can occur there. It's not like the pressure's completely on Reece James to come in and just seize the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Lampard will ease him in, but he will play him if he deserves to play. He won't hesitate to. And I think actually there's a chance that Azpilicueta might go over to left back.
He did play there, didn't he, for a while under Mourinho?
Yeah, he was very good there, actually, because he's going to be the captain, I think, Azpilicueta.
He deserves it. He fully deserves it.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does. I think Chelsea fans love him as well. And he's a proper Chelsea person. He's become really ingratiated with the club. And
so I think the thing you see with Azpilicueta is that I don't think Chelsea over the last 10, 15 years have had many bargains or very good deals that they've stuck with a player and really built him in. And Azpilicueta is the perfect example. I think they paid 14 million.
No, 7 million it was.
7, that's bargain. The player that he's become, the true leader in that squad.
I mean, he's right up there with Bakayoko for value for money, I think, as far as Chelsea go. What I would we've talked quite a bit on Chelsea, so 2 quick fire final questions for you both. So James, I was in the process before we got the TNC breaking news with Morata of how do you see Chelsea doing this season. So give me a prediction of where their best finish and worst finish would be quickly.
I think the best finish will be probably 4th.
Yeah.
I think we can challenge for 4th place. Worst case scenario, I think we'll finish 6th with the squad that we have. with the youth that we have. With Lampard, his man management skills, motivational skills, he will build a great team spirit there. I think, top 6 comfortably, top 4, I think possibly.
Okay, Dex, for you?
I actually fully agree with James. I think I'd change my worst case, and I think you probably just finish outside of the Europe places.
I agree. I think 7th is worst
If it goes
case.
badly to begin with, I think the start is going to be crucial. I think you've got a really important first game against Manchester United there.
It's a draw all over that, though, isn't it? That's a 1-1. It's a 1-1.
I feel like he's got a really good chance, and I do think he can get in the Champions League places and really get up there and challenge Man City and Liverpool. But I think worst case, definitely like a sort of 7th, 8th finish, which I don't think is the end of the world, considering the position they're in. And it's a new fresh manager with a transfer ban. He's got time, and he needs to be given time.
Just one more concern, actually, before we move completely on from Chelsea. Is there a danger that Kepa Arrizabalaga sees himself as the manager next season? And tries to usurp Lampard? I don't know. Potentially. Anyway, no, we're not even. Don't entertain that with an answer. We're trying to be efficient with time. On to another.
I didn't know you were funny, John. This is the first I've heard of this.
No, don't be ridiculous. I try every week. This is just the first time it's worked. We're going to move on to another different top 4 person, different top 4 team right now, because we've done a lot on Chelsea, and I want to talk a bit about Arsenal, who I genuinely think. Again, it's weird because I can for some reason see Arsenal getting that 4th place still if they can sort of a few things out. At the same time, I can see them capitulating to something like 8. It's that crazy, and I genuinely can see this. The reason I say maybe they can get 4th is because, again, as I've told you, I think it's probably the weakest battle for 4th in years, apart from the top 3. I know you two may disagree because you have affiliations with certain other clubs that United and Chelsea, of course.
I don't even like football, Johnny.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Right. Anyway, back to Arsenal before we talk about where people are going to finish and whatnot. I feel really sorry for Unai Emery. I feel really sorry for him because I feel like he's an adaptable manager and he does the best he can with what he has. And I think last season, what he had wasn't good enough, but he still managed to deliver a respectable. At one point, I thought they'd get the 4th position. If they got 4th position, I remember Gary Neville saying Emery should get Manager of the Year because that would be an unbelievable achievement with a pretty average squad. He would have done incredibly well. They didn't quite get that. And this season, he's lost, in my opinion, his best player in Ramsey. And that might cause a bit of debate because people are going to say Aubameyang or Lacazette, who are also very good. But I think he's lost his best player in Ramsey on a free. They haven't got a replacement in. There aren't really too many names that have been thrown at as his replacement. They have a budget of £40 million, which is minuscule in comparison to many of their other rivals. They're linked with a defender, Saliba. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And his club want him back. They want if they sign him, they want him back on loan. Otherwise, they won't sanction the sale for him. So, I mean, that's not good, is it? That's the centre-back that's supposed to strengthen the rear guard at the back. Their target is supposedly going to go, if they sign him, to go back on loan to his parent club, or to his old club, sorry. It's crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely mad.
He's 18 at the end of the day. It's not a bad thing going back on loan.
No, it's not. But they need players. Players because they're in danger of capitulation. I feel like every club, has become... I mean, I think Chelsea, when they finished 10th, that wasn't necessarily foreseeable, but it was quickly after a few games you thought there's something not right here. Emery's a good manager. I don't necessarily think he'll lose the dressing room to an extent, but I just look at those players and think, you look at Leicester and Everton, if they bring 1 or 2 players in, you think that's as good as the Arsenal squad.
If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be so depressed right now. Really. Yeah. You hear about this £45 million transfer budget, and then they make a £40 million bid for Zaha.
£8 million a year. It was going to be paid in instalments. £8 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, are you joking? It's like, I mean, it's just like that's when you think about when you think about Wan-Bissaka went for 50 million, and he's a fullback.
Yeah, 5 million.
What possesses Arsenal to think that Palace are going to even remotely consider?
It's the 40 million and £1 again, isn't it?
Yes.
With Suarez.
Their owner is like, I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
But I can see why it's happening, because you look at Arsenal and they're owned by an American called Stan Kroenke, who owns the Los Angeles Rams in America in the NFL. And they're having a brand new stadium being purpose-built in LA.
This is good insight, Dave. We aren't aware of this.
That's why I can see that there is less and less money, and that's this issue of owning multiple teams and putting money in the right place. But that stadium is costing a lot of money, and I can see why that maybe is why the transfer budget is quite small for Arsenal, because you look at Arsenal and be like, they're a top 6 team, they've got to have a great revenue, they've got a very, very popular fan base that's surely making the money, but still there doesn't seem to be any transfer budget. And that's the only thing I can sort of explain it with. with is that Stan Kroenke is just putting money in his preferred teams, because LA Rams made the Super Bowl last year. They're a successful team, so you can see him maybe prioritising a team over Arsenal, and I think that's why some fans really want to deliver that sort of Kroenke out message, because they get a bit frustrated at him.
Yeah.
I mean, the two strikers are top level, aren't they? I mean, Lacazette and Aubameyang. And the reason I say Ramsey was the better player is because I think you can actually probably replace those kind of... You can get those kind of like-for-like strikes, but there's nothing wrong with those. Both of them they have a really good relationship on and off the field. Brilliant finishers. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the strike force. That's I think most clubs in Europe would take on Lacazette or Aubameyang as their strikers, and Arsenal have the luxury of having both of them. And then you've got the enigma that's Ozil, who on his day is unbelievable. There's not enough of those days. In terms of his defensive contributions or system, working hard in the systems, it's kind of non-existent. So you've got a bit of a £300,000 a week luxury. I don't want to go on a rant about wages again, because everyone that we're all in the same boat, aren't we, with stupid wages being given to people when they shouldn't necessarily be given. I think we see that with Ozil. That's why Ramsey probably left, because there wasn't enough to give Ramsey. Aside from that, let's go back a bit. Yeah, Xhaka can pick some nice passes, and to be fair, he's probably one of Arsenal's better midfielders. But there's not a lot, is there? There's not a lot.
No, there's not.
Behind those front two, the defence is painfully average. I mean, the fact that Mustafi's playing a lot of games, practically almost week in, week out last season, and he's the accident everyone knows is waiting to happen, and he's still in that team. Koscielny, he's on the wrong side of 30 now, and he's clearly not in his prime or as good as he used to be, and he's still finding his way into the team. Socrates didn't do too bad last season, but was bought from Dortmund as a player who Dortmund felt had seen his best years or wasn't quite the player that he was. So I think you've summed it up, James. I think depressing is the word. And Kemry's in the final year, I think. He got a 2-year deal. What can he do? What can he do?
I've got no idea what he can do to...
If he pulls a rabbit out of a hat and gets fourth, he deserves knighthood, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Honestly, I think they're the team in the top six that are most at risk of
dropping out of the top six.
six.
You wouldn't be surprised, would you?
And Leicester are a better run club than Arsenal. Much better. And I think they've actually got a good squad. They're adding players. They're making clever signings. They've got a good manager. I wouldn't be surprised if...
Of Arsenal at the moment. And I think the worst thing is, you're getting a season ticket at the Emirates. It's about £1,000, isn't it? It's about £1,000. And then I've had the fortune of going on a few Man City games because I've got people who, support the team. The way they treat their fans is incredible. As well as the football that they see, you go to a game at the Etihad. The fan service is brilliant. They have pre-match punditry with some ex-City player or whatever. They have pre-match games that go on in City Fan Square, where everyone sort of they get a pint, they partake in sort of pre-match games outside the stadium. You go in the stadium, it's lovely, brilliant stadium. You witness some of the best football in the country. And the pricing at City, I know it's not London pricing, so it's in Manchester, but it dwarfs that of Arsenal or any of the clubs like that. I actually think it's cheaper to get a ticket at City than sometimes it is at Burnley, depending on what price you get. So you look at value for money, and that's what upsets me the most. I think when you look at Arsenal and teams like in London and such. I mean, Spurs probably getting a good deal at the moment because their stadium is beautiful and they are going up in the world. But imagine paying £1,000, being an Arsenal fan, and seeing what they're doing now. Your best player's just gone. Your potential transfer dealings are looking bleak.
You say that about Tottenham, but I feel like Arsenal had the same sort of feeling when the Emirates had just been built and they moved out of Highbury. Yeah. It was that same sort of buzz.
Yeah, I know. I just feel for them though, because it's ever since that, isn't it? It's been a decline because they couldn't invest in the team. Wenger declined himself in terms of his managerial capabilities, and the budget since Wenger's left has dropped again. It's dropped again. Yeah. I didn't think it could drop, but it's dropped again. And Emery's been treated a little bit like he's like a puppet on strings, isn't he? I think he'll do whatever the board want him to do. I feel like that with Solskjaer, to be honest with you, a little bit. He'll do what the board tell him to do. The board will dictate his. He's in the second year of his contract. I wouldn't be surprised if he left for free after this year. I don't know what the board expected to do, but
I think it entirely depends on the performance of the team.
I guess so.
I don't think he'll stay.
No,
I wouldn't if I was him.
No, it should be worth noting he's used to these models as the head coach, Emery, and that's why they got him on board. But if the people above him, they had Gazidis, didn't they, not too long ago, and he's now gone. And he was one of the
to Milan.
Yeah, and he was one of the head recruitment people, so he would be able to sort of scout hidden talents or scout people for bargains and things like that. So he's now gone.
Yeah.
So that's not helpful, I guess. But that group of people above Emery, at Sevilla it worked wonders. They found people who suited his style. They brought him in. They did well. At PSG it was a bit different.
That's what I mean. On the flip side, that he did have money there, and some of his signings were questionable, albeit not Kylian Mbappe.
I think it was more to do with the ego. I think he's better at the slightly less ego-driven club.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
those little egos that are.
I was a big fan of what he did at Sevilla.
At Sevilla, he was excellent, and I think it almost like, and Arsenal's not too dissimilar, I guess. I don't think it quite has that top level. I mean, you could say Ozil, but I don't think he's a troublemaker, really. In fact, he's quite quiet off the field, really. It's just he's been given a massive amount of money per week, and, he's not really justifying that too much. And it's hard for Emery because it's not really a system player, is he? You build a team around Ozil, and they've tried to, and it kind of works and kind of doesn't. And with Emery, he wants to build a system kind of that's combative defensively, that they can push forward together, they come back together, and Ozil don't really fit that system.
But that's what I mean. The only time a team's ever built around Ozil was when he was at Werder Bremen before the Real Madrid move. And that worked perfectly in the Bundesliga at the time because he was just coming up. No one really knew about him, and they played to his strengths.
I feel like Arsene Wenger tried it a little bit.
Yeah. And that's probably the most success we actually ever saw from Mesut Ozil. And now, ever since, it's been these little flashes where it's like, oh, he's the player, he's still got it. And then he goes 10 games and he disappears.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on the topic, I mean...
You better deliver a good segue now.
It does, yeah. What we're talking about then, though, I was talking about a comparison between City and Arsenal, and City being like this really good, brilliant fan service or whatever. So, segue off of that, and they're doing some pretty decent business, aren't they? We were talking about Cancelo last week. That didn't happen, but Rodri did. And the buyout clause, 62.4 million. Really exciting signing for them.
There's your replacement for Fernandinho. Do you know what I mean? Fernandinho has been the best defensive mids in the Premier League, and they knew he was coming towards the end, and they found a perfect replacement.
Well, we were saying it on last week's or the week before's podcast. It'll be like, you can imagine them sharing a 50-50, 60-40 kind of minutes to ratio, because Fernandinho's clearly not over the hill just yet, but Rodri's still got to acclimatise to English football, as good as he is, and he's very good.
Yeah.
You still need that bedding in period. And what better person to have to sort of shadow a little bit in your first season than Fernandinho, one of the best defensive midfielders in the past few years.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a fantastic signing. Again, Man City just doing the business again. They're just so efficient, effective, get the job done. No,
I feel like we mentioned Rodri really heavily last time, and
we did. That's why we're just sort of touching on it. Yeah,
that's what I mean. I feel like we just saw how positive of a player he, and hopefully he'll be quality for City, and will fill in that Fernandinho role really well, and we'll see them play maybe even better together. I think it's a positive thing. We've said how efficiently City seem to be. They've noticed something they needed replacement, and they've bought it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's...
Yeah, there's not much to it. If you want to listen to what we said about Rodri, we had a big tactical breakdown last week, so we could skedaddle back onto that podcast. We're all about the links on this show. And we can promote our own previous work. But two other mentions. Obviously, Cancelo hasn't gone through. Maybe that's died down a little bit. I, at the time, actually thought, it had improved City as a club. It improved City on the pitch, but maybe it wasn't as necessary as Rodri because, they've still got Danilo who hasn't gone yet. Walker's still a very formidable right back in that position.
Yeah, and I actually saw today that it seems Juan Cuadrado is going to move to China. So that sort of that right side, they're sort of going to have to rely on Cancelo next season. So that seems to sort of slam the door if Cuadrado does move.
I don't think Man City will look at it and think, oh, we've missed out like they would if we missed out on Rodri.
No.
I feel like it was maybe a sort of maybe an icing on the top of the cake almost. But one thing I'll throw this to you, James. They were linked with Nathan Ake this week as a full centre back. Cheaper than Maguire.
Yeah.
Probably does look like the full centre back. But then again, if Otamendi leaves, then you see him playing even more minutes, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you used to play for Chelsea.
Did he?
Academy player, yeah.
Were you ever a big fan?
I am a big fan. We had a buyback clause this summer.
Yeah.
I think that there was a lot of talk that if we hadn't had a transfer ban, we may well have bought him.
Do you know what the fee was there?
It was the buyback clause was about 40 million. We sold him for 20 million. So effectively, we'd be getting for 20 million. But I think he's a guy that fits with the way City like to play. He's got a good attitude. He works hard. He's good on the ball. He's actually a good defender. People don't realise that he's a good defender. He can play in a number of positions. He's intelligent. He's a guy that would learn and improve under Pep Guardiola, for sure.
Is he worth half the price of Harry Maguire?
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
If they get it for 40 million, that's an excellent deal. I mean, it really is.
I think it's more speculation at this point, and I think there'll probably be a few names in the hat. Somewhere else it said they were going to rival United's bid for Maguire. I don't think they will do myself, but I can't see it. They're a bit too sensible.
Quick question to you two. Do you think United will sign Harry Maguire?
I think if Harry Maguire signs, I think it's going to start. It's either a butterfly or domino effect. So one of those two. But it's going to start that effect because I think that will then signal them to go for James Tarkowski or potentially Lewis Dunk. But I think probably James Tarkowski suits Leicester more. And because of the inflation with Harry Maguire, I think that'll inflate Tarkowski's sort of fee.
That's true.
Well, I think that 40 million was sort of being suggested there.
I personally see Tarkowski 25, 30 in that region. But because Maguire, who I'd probably see maybe at 60, probably at most, given his homegrown status. Is that what it is? That's what it's called? Yeah, homegrown status.
Yeah.
So given that, and that's going to add 20 on, I feel like they'll probably add another 10, 15 on Tarkowski's price maybe. And if they went for Lewis Dunk, probably similar.
Yeah.
We're linked with both of those. But yeah, I think United...
I was just curious what you guys would... And
I don't think it'd be too bad because I don't think the problem with United, as I say, is the hefty fee, transfer fees. It's the hefty wages. If they get Maguire in for a hefty fee, but give him 100,000 a week, then you're not saying, oh, that's crazy wages, and you've got a sustainable structure there. I don't think hefty fees are as bad as hefty wages because it's easier to get rid of those hefty fee mistakes. Yes, you'd be making it at a loss, but you can get rid of them. Whereas if you've got them on heavy wages, Alexis Sanchez, you're kind of stuck with them, you know, when you don't want to be stuck with them because no club wants.
And instantly, Harry Maguire is an instant upgrade.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why it sort of seems worth it, even though it's a silly number.
Yeah. No, Harry Maguire and Lindelof's a very good partnership, I think, in the making. Lindelof just wants...
I think that would excite a lot of United fans.
Yeah.
As much as they think the price is silly, I think if you look at it just like Lindelof and Maguire, if they can stay fit for a whole season, that's a quality back too.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite funny, actually. Well, it wouldn't be funny if he turned up on day one and he was out for the season with a leg break or something. That would just be horrendous, wouldn't it? We don't want that to happen. I'm just saying it would be tragic, you know, with any big money player, if that actually did happen or materialise.
Yeah, I've got a feeling if Man City won't pay for Maguire, which they probably won't, if they do, then he'll go to City.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He wants to go to... I think he preferred to go to City.
Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't now? But I think if it gets to kind of towards deadline day and Man City and Man United still haven't got the centre back that they want, and if they really, really want Maguire, then they'll just pay up for him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Especially if Pogba goes as well, because they'll have money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, you could get Maguire and Fernandes for the price of Pogba, which is a really good deal, actually, because they're both a very good player. They're both upgrades. Like, they're both got better attitudes. You know, they're both more. I think that would be a very good deal for United.
No. Anyway, final part of the show. We're going to sort of round up some of the other ones. Well, a few topics: Leicester City, Newcastle, Sheffield United.
Are you going to make it quick fire?
Potentially. I've not worked that out in my head yet. Not at the moment.
Yeah, quick fire round.
No, there's an important part here. Actually, I'd like to discuss the Newcastle situation and Leicester getting Ayoze Perez. Now, when this broke, actually, £30 million, I thought that's not a bad deal for Newcastle. I think he's one of those players who works very hard. He always contributes with quite a few goals. I always think maybe not quite as consistent as it could be, but as people said on Twitter, that could be well down to the fact Newcastle are a pragmatic team. It can be hard to play as an attacking player in that team. That was quite a lot of money. But at the same time, I thought, Leicester paying quite a bit, but he could be quite good. He could be quite useful, almost like...
I think it's a good deal for both. Do you know what I mean? It sort of just makes sense for both teams, and I can sort of see why Newcastle have sold him, even though he's been one of their better performers.
The only sort of issue Newcastle fans have, really, is that he was a fan. Fans did take to him quite a lot. They did like him a lot. And if he goes... Well, he has gone. So he's gone. £30 million. Where's that going to go? Is that going to go into Mike Ashley's back pocket? Or are they only going to spend 10 million of it? Because that really needs to be spent across the whole squad because it's looking threadbare. No Rondon, no Ayoze Perez. You're losing your two top goal scorers from last season.
Are Newcastle getting relegated next season? That's the question.
If they don't spend money...
No manager as well. No manager.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're in real trouble because what manager's going to want to go there and work with Mike Ashley?
Bring Steve McLaren back.
What decent manager? And second, what player's going to want to go there? I mean, it's a toxic club, with and Benitez can't attract.
Well, I don't think Ashley wants to get anyone have to pay for any manager, so I think he'll be probably looking along the lines of those that are out of work. To be fair,
yeah, I've seen a rumor just now linking him to Kike Sanchez, who used to be at
Oh, Watford.
What about Big Sam?
I quite like Oh, that would be so brutal, wouldn't it? He used to manage Newcastle, of course. So if that would be tragic, really, actually. But no, I worry for them, actually. I know you say what manager would want to manage it. I mean, let's look at it. 52,000, huge stadium, a lot of heritage at the club. If you're out of work, you're going to take up the offer, I think, 100%.
Yeah,
I think you're going to take that. There's a lot worse places you could go.
A great challenge as well.
I don't think it's a difficult challenge, but there is something tantalising about managing Newcastle. They just, like I say, a club with such heritage. But at the moment, you'd say, that heritage isn't really counting for much, I guess. But for Leicester, just to go back, I think that will help them a lot. I think they may have overpaid slightly, but player that I'd look at him maybe potential regular or squad player who can come in and come off the bench. He reminds me a bit of Okazaki, actually. He works really hard. Not the most flashy of players, but he's a nuisance and he's quite a good... I mean, towards the end of last season, he was banging goals in left, right, and centre for Newcastle. He could be, off Jamie Vardy or feeding off or off the left or the right. He's quite versatile. He played in a number of positions for Newcastle. Feeding off James Maddison's balls, because Vardy's the main threat, isn't he? But often players can benefit from being the secondary runner or the secondary antagonist with defenders preoccupied with Vardy. Jose Perez could have a bit of joy, couldn't he, at Leicester, sorry. More than he had a pragmatic Newcastle that played five at the back.
100%. He is definitely that second striker sort of role that we've seen from many players similar to him. Like, he's really fast and he's got a great finish on him. So I feel like that's why I feel like it benefits both teams. Like, the 30 million is fair, and if Newcastle reinvest that in the right way, that could be huge for them. But that's a very big if. But Jose Perez for Leicester, I think it's probably a little bit of an overpay, but that was his release clause. I was unaware that he had a release clause. It's something that's not very popular in England, but he did have one, and that's why that fee's been agreed. But it's a really... I do just feel it benefits both teams, and I hope it works out for both, and I hope that for Newcastle fans' sake anyway, that they do reinvest it in the squad and buy a replacement.
Final topic now then. Final topic. I want to talk a bit about Sheffield United. They're a club that's very much in the mould of a Cardiff City of last season, or Burnley when they first came up with Sean Dyche.
Definitely.
Actually.
A lot of comparison there between Dyche.
Yeah. They broke their transfer record this week to sign Luke Freeman from QPR. £3 million. That is their transfer record.
It's crazy, isn't it? Very, very good player, Luke Freeman.
He is. No, I remember watching him in the FA Cup quite a few years ago. I think he played for Stevenage at the time. And I thought he was confident, only small, but not afraid to take players on. Very skillful, decent deliveries from set pieces and such.
Definitely.
But what I would say is that, and I didn't really see much of him after. I didn't really follow his career after he left Stevenage. But then I saw that he went to, obviously he did well at QPR. He got their player of the season last year, and that was impressive considering their plight, where they were, they're in a bit of a mess at the moment now. I still think recovering almost from the overabundance of Premier League, and just getting the wrong kind of players in, or too many.
Tony Fernandez.
I know, but this guy, very talented, and I say I'm a bit surprised because Chris Wilder seems to probably like the players that are in a similar vein to Sean Dyche, a similar vein to Neil Warnock, the hard-working, gritty kind of players. But you do need a bit of flair in there, I guess, and
yeah, and I feel like Luke Freeman is that sort of English in between, where he does have this little bit of flair to him, but he works hard.
He does, yeah.
When he played for Stevenage, even when he was at Bristol City, he's always been a hard worker. And even though last season we saw him score maybe more goals than assists, I feel like assists are what he really brings, especially like you said, from set pieces.
Really good on set pieces, yeah.
Exactly, and those are the sort of assists that he does consistently get. And even though last season he was more of a goal scorer, getting 9 goals across the season, he's a great player, and I feel like he's just what you sort of want a promoted team, because he's experienced enough, but he's still got to have that massive drive where he wants to perform in the Premier League, and that's what I feel football is always about. He'll definitely put a shift in, and hopefully he can be a really positive player for them, because like you said, I do see a lot of comparison in Wilder and Dyche, like we said, that
and Warnock even.
Exactly, and that he will. I don't think he'll change his team much from his championship side. And even though a lot of people would be quick to criticise that, it worked for Burnley big time.
It did. I think Burnley was slightly stronger than Sheffield United.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would agree with that. I think Jagielka is a very, very true...
By the way, everyone, Jagielka's signed.
Yeah, well, see, I did a segue there.
Yeah, he was training with Burnley for a week. The rumours were going round that Burnley were signing 36-year-old Jagielka, and the fans were not happy.
Johnny was about to go mental.
I wasn't. I thought it'd be quite a good signing, actually. I thought, experience, know-how, one-year deal. I thought it'd be decent. So I think, going into Sheffield United, I thought it was written in the stars.
He's returned home.
It was his boyhood club. So, I thought, because I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United, while he was training with them, I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United came in and tried to and brought him on board. Good signing, really, because obviously they're a team without a lot of Premier League experience, and he has that in abundance. He's certainly not what he was, and I don't think he can play every single game of every single, for the whole campaign, but I think he can come in and do a job when needed. And I think his presence around the squad will probably be uplifting, won't it? Someone who's, because that's a big name for it, Sheffield United.
And I'd expect him to go into a coaching role as well after maybe a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
He just seems like that sort of player that would want to take up that role. But I can't blame him for going back. I'd really, if I was a footballer, I'd want to play for Chris Wilder right now. He seems like a very exciting manager. He did a really good job when he was at Oxford United. Yeah. And now he's done an incredible job at Sheffield United in guiding them to the Premier League.
I see parallels more with Cardiff of last season. I feel like they will probably go down, but if they do go down, I feel like they'll go down 5.
I never felt positive about Cardiff, but I feel a bit of positivity towards Sheffield United. I feel like there is...
The £3 million record fee tells you all you need to know about the challenge.
Yeah.
I imagine that they might break that again because they've been linked with Charlie Austin, actually. I'm not sure whether that...
Neil Maupay as well from Brentford. I imagine that'll be about 20 million if that goes through, so that would smash it.
Yeah, so again, I'd expect 20 million might be a bit out of that. I mean, they've only just broken the £3 million threshold, so that tells, as I say, but I do expect them to probably break it again. However, I do get the sense that, like Cardiff last year, there was, did you not get a good sense about, I thought towards the end, as Brighton was slipping, I thought Cardiff could really actually, grab, all they needed were 3 points. I think they'd have survived, I think, over Brighton.
Definitely. I feel like it's hard to feel positive about Neil Warnock sometimes. He's a great working manager, but come on.
I can't feel positive about any team where Neil Warnock is manager.
And on that note,
with that bombshell,
Neil Warnock. I like Chris Wilder because he gets the bus, doesn't he? Still, and that's quite.
Yeah, I like Chris Wilder. Yeah.
That's good on managerial ship. Anyway, so that we'll wrap this up then. On Sheffield United, James hates Neil Warnock.
A very, very Premier League heavy.
It was actually, it was very heavy on Premier League. Obviously there was the sort of Coutinho links to PSG, I'm sure, but I'm foreshadowing because if anything develops, we can talk about that next week.
Exactly, and maybe we'll go a little bit more European. Next week.
Yeah, I think we'll go more European as time goes on because the English window closes.
That is a very good point, James.
In about a month's time, and then after that, you've got another whole month
of listening to us three.
That's exactly what Jamie, you took the words right out of my mouth because that's exactly what I've been planning this whole time. But anyway, that's wrap up. I've been Johnny. You two have been.
Yeah.
Myself,
you've been yourselves, and I've been the stand-up comedian.
Amazing.
And yeah, so thanks for listening, everyone, and see you next week, where Deck will probably be trying to do his best impression of hosting, but it won't be quite.
Wow, probably. Fingers crossed. I'll practice.
Yeah,
I promise.
So.
Subscribe.
See you, everyone.
Subscribe and like.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.